In our previous video, we looked at how seeing Darth Vader within his meditation chamber without his helmet when he was reporting to him directly significantly impacted General Veers. Veers recognized that Vader was someone who suffered horribly in the past, but this recognition also allowed him to understand that Vader endured this unimaginable pain and suffering. General Veers would then use Vader's example to endure himself when he sustained devastating injuries during the Battle of Hoth, understanding that Vader likely reshaped himself and had become stronger through his suffering. We've also looked at an example from Legends, where Starkiller was able to see Darth Vader's face without his helmet on during their duel that occurred in The Force Unleashed. Starkiller's experience was interesting as he was able to see Vader's eyes. The novelization reveals that this experience froze Starkiller momentarily, as he ultimately saw Vader as pathetic in this moment, with his eyes showing only the smallest amounts of life, but a tremendous amount of pain. Through the short story For the Last Time, written by Beth Revis and found within the novel From a Certain Point of View, The Empire Strikes Back, we now have another story within the current canon that provides an Imperial officer's perspective after seeing Vader without his helmet, this Imperial officer being Admiral Piett. In today's video, we'll look at Admiral Piett's thoughts immediately after seeing Darth Vader without his helmet during the scene demonstrating this event from Episode 5. As Admiral Piett entered Darth Vader's private chamber ready to make his report to the Sith Lord, he made sure to remind himself about the value of fear, recognizing that other Imperial officers avoided the entire floor Vader's chamber was located on, let alone the chamber itself. Telling himself that lacking fear altogether would demonstrate that he was complacent and not on a path of power, Piett recognized the need for him to report directly to Vader, despite the consequences that could result. However, being lost within his own thoughts in this way caused Piett to fail to recognize that Vader wasn't entirely prepared for his report. As he approached Vader's meditation chamber, he hesitated for a moment, but curiosity propelled him forward. Unlike Veers, who as we mentioned in our previous video, saw Vader without his helmet on multiple occasions when reporting directly to him, Piett never had before, with the scene from Episode 5 being the first occurrence of this for the Admiral. When he leaned in to see within Vader's meditation chamber, in the words of the short story, Piett saw for the first time just how broken Darth Vader truly was, something Piett was not expecting. The short story points out that Piett took note of the damage to Vader's skin, which included painful-looking welts, the electronics that connected into Vader's nerves, and the neckpiece that worked to assist Vader's spine. Even as Vader's helmet descended and sealed the Sith Lord within his armor and cybernetics, Piett couldn't help imagining what it was like inside the helmet. Even more, since he hadn't seen Vader's face, Piett couldn't stop himself from imagining what it may have looked like, considering a number of gruesome details that make it clear just how impacted Piett was by the experience. As revealed within the short story, showing a considerable difference from what General Veers ultimately concluded, Piett could only wonder what kept Vader going and why he would choose to endure such pain. But eventually, Piett had to recognize that in that moment, he only felt one thing: pity. Prior to this experience, Piett only saw Vader within his armor, viewing him as a commander with unimaginable powers that Piett didn't understand, but which had the ability to let Vader eliminate anyone he chose to. However, seeing him without his helmet on had allowed Piett to see Vader as mortal and introduced a new weakness that Piett didn't know existed previously. And as Piett concluded, it wasn't his own courage, but pity that dismantled some of the fear he had of Darth Vader. One might think that Piett saw this as a good thing, given how prominent fear must have been for the officers of the Empire in regard to Darth Vader, particularly for Piett, who recently witnessed the demise of Admiral Ozzel through the actions of Vader. However, for Piett, this diminished fear was unacceptable for him. As explained in the short story, as a junior officer within the ranks of the Empire, Piett had learned directly from Grand Moff Tarkin, and with this learning came one important lesson for Piett. Individuals were ruled either through fear or through a false sense of security. For Piett, it was fear that gave him strength, as the lack of fear meant that he would be oblivious to potential threats, while fear would allow him to be prepared and move forward accordingly. Therefore, he attempted to forget what he saw and tried to see Vader only as he had been, defined by his armor and cybernetics, not the individual who was within the suit. It wasn't difficult for the fear to return in some ways, as Piett only had to turn to the memory of Admiral Ozzel's death a few days earlier. But in the end, Piett knew that he could never erase the memory of what he saw, and more importantly, the pity he had for Darth Vader that resulted from it. He had seen past Vader's helmet and mask during the events of Episode 5, and as described within the short story, this provided Piett with a completely different perspective of Darth Vader, where Vader was seen as mortal and someone who Piett couldn't help but pity, thereby removing at least some of the fear of Vader that had been so prominent previously for the Admiral. So there we have it, Admiral Piett's thoughts after seeing Darth Vader without his helmet in Episode 5. Thank you very much to all of the Patreon members of Star Wars Reading Club, as your support is so greatly appreciated. You can find all of our social media links and a link to our Star Wars gaming channel in the description below, for updates and even more Star Wars content. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me... For Admiral Piett.